The PlayStation 1 era was the golden age for JRPGs, each game carving out its own identity with unique systems and bold ideas. But somewhere in that crowded landscape was Legend of Legaia, a game that didn't reach the same heights, but offered something truly different. With modern JRPGs prioritizing trends and nostalgia of the past over innovation, I decided to take a look at some classic games I never completed. I had an itch for something turn-based, so I decided to revisit this forgotten gem. Unlike most games I replay though, I don't have much nostalgic fondness for Legend of Legaia, at least not in the way you'd expect. When I first played Legend of Legaia as a kid, it wasn't love at first sight. I actually dropped the game 5 hours in, stuck on a boss I just couldn't beat. Some years back, I gave it another try, and died in a random encounter right after leaving the first town. With no saves, I lost everything. At that point, I shelved the game again. Fast forward to now, over 2 decades later, I've finally beaten it. There is so much I want to talk about and emotions to process. I was relieved that I was able to complete the game after making the mistake of playing it on the PlayStation 3, which had an unavoidable freeze. I was satisfied that I was finally able to complete something that originally felt impossible. But mostly, I felt sad, because games like this just don't get made anymore. What kept me going wasn't the story, it was the combat. Legend of Legaia doesn't follow typical turn-based conventions. Instead of picking attack and sitting back, every attack is input manually using the D-pad, high, low, left, and right. Depending on the enemy's size or whether they're flying, certain attacks can actually miss. It's simple at first, but then arts gets introduced. These are special attacks that are unlocked by experimenting with attack strings. And here's where the game really hooked me. Finding new arts felt like learning secret moves, and chaining them together became its own puzzle. It was also cool to see the combos come to life. Some arts even shared input sequences, letting me combine attacks into long strings, like canceling supers in a fighting game. But every move cost action points, so managing my AP became its own strategy. That's where the Spirit command comes in. Spirit increases the maximum AP, boosts defense, and even increases how many moves I could string together in a single turn. It's what I was missing all those years ago, and likely why every boss demolished me. Legend of Legaia doesn't go easy. Money's tight, spells are expensive, and random encounters occurred every few steps. And even trash mobs forced me to play carefully. Most modern games often spoon-fed resources. This one made me earn everything. Gear progression is actually the toughest I've experienced. I never ran away from battles, yet every new town I get to, I'm only able to buy a couple of items at best before going flat broke. The equipment system was clever too. Footwear increases lower body defense and kicking power, while helmet boosts intelligence and upper defense. Even armor changed how the characters looked, which was a cool touch for such an old game. Magic, on the other hand, is not very exciting. Spells came from absorbing defeated enemies, if the RNG gods willed it. Spells level up through frequency of use, and higher levels mean extra effects, like recovering status ailments for healing spells, or increased damage for offensive spells. However, high MP usage for offensive spells made them less appealing than just doing a full combo. Now, let's talk about the pacing. The game is slow. Moving across the world map took forever between the sluggish walk speed and high encounter rate. It wasn't until I switched to a PS1 emulator and used Cheat Engine to speed up the game that I realized I should have just started with this in the beginning. Having a turbo would have saved me so much time, especially since time isn't something I have a lot of as a working adult. It was incredibly useful in combat as well, since all the actions are selected first before the attacks are played out, so I could just choose my moves at a normal speed and blast through all the animations. When it comes to the story, it's nothing to write home about. It's serviceable, but nothing groundbreaking. It takes place in a world where Seru and people cohabitate and form a symbiotic relationship. At least until the dreaded mist comes along and makes every Seru go crazy. Serus unattached to humans will attack any innocents in sight, and any person unlucky enough to have a Seru fused with them will turn into some zombie-like menace. The hero Vaughn lives in a remote village that protects itself from the mist using a giant wall somehow, with his rear completely exposed to the ocean. You'd think the mist and monsters could just come in from the exposed side, but maybe I'm just an idiot and don't know how fog works. In this village also lives a Genesis tree, which has the power to fight back the mist. Vaughn becomes the chosen hero along with a couple of others to travel the world to awaken all the Genesis trees and bring back peace to the land of Legaia. The story lacks a strong initial hook with its basic premise, and Vaughn being a silent protagonist didn't help. A lot of narrative elements came from NPCs and other heroes who joined. It was hard to stay focused as I was just traveling from one place to another reviving trees. Legend of Legaia is definitely one of those games that doesn't get good until at least halfway through, when the story starts to flesh out all of his characters more. On that note, Noah, the second companion to join, had the opposite effect. As the story got more interesting, she got exponentially more annoying. Her whole character shows no maturity throughout the entire game, with the exception of the very last scene. Her backstory explains this behavior, but I still couldn't stop myself from being irritated by her. Even when the story started to reach a climax, it wasn't at the heights I was hoping for. There wasn't really a big twist that knocked my socks off. It seemed like there was gonna be a gotcha moment, as the servers were hiding something and their presence on the body also starts expanding. The antagonist also felt a bit shallow. The main antagonist kinda came and went pretty quickly. Despite being the mastermind behind all the problems in Legaia, he was pretty underwhelming. The final confrontation with him was challenging, but narratively, he barely felt like a presence. Overall, while Legend of Legaia isn't a game I'd rank alongside my favorites like Final Fantasy Tactics or Symphony of the Night, it did carve out a place in my memory for different reasons. Its combat system is one of the most creative I've seen in a JRPG, even today. High difficulty, scarcity of resources, and the mechanics gave me an experience few modern games can replicate. It's not perfect, not by a long shot, but I did enjoy my time with it. So much so that at 3 AM right after finishing, I bought the sequel. An impulsive buy when my mental fortitude is weak? Probably, but I'm interested in what else the series has in store for me. No idea if it'll hold up, but I guess I'll find out. Let me know in the comments. Did you ever play Legend of Legaia, or is this one of those hidden gems that you missed? Either way, if you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing for more classic JRPG content. Keep grinding, keep exploring, and I'll see you on the next journey.